Have you ever seen someone completely incompetent, utterly unqualified, even dangerous, standing at the highest podium of power, and asked yourself, how on earth did he get there? You're not the only one. We've all seen it. A mediocre coworker gets promoted. A leader with empty promises is praised like a prophet. A fraud controls the entire game. Meanwhile, the truly intelligent, the truly capable, the ones with integrity, are pushed to the sidelines, quietly forgotten. The problem isn't luck. It's not that they were unfortunate. It's that the system of power today is designed to eliminate the competent. Sounds absurd. The infamous political philosopher Machiavelli exposed this bitter truth over 500 years ago. He didn't sugarcoat reality. He didn't write to please. He simply revealed a brutal law. In the game of power, ignorance and deception are deadly weapons. And if you don't understand that, if you still believe that talent will shine on its own, that morality will always win, then you're living in an illusion. And illusions always come at a cost. Today, I want to share with you a story that's deep, raw, and filled with truths no one wants to hear. But you need to. If this video speaks to the frustration in your soul, click like to support this channel and subscribe so you never miss the next story on power, psychology, and the most brutally honest life philosophies. The mindset of Machiavelli. Realism over morality. To understand Machiavelli, you must first set aside every moral framework you've been taught, because he wasn't writing for the weak. He wasn't writing to comfort soft-hearted souls with ideals. He wrote for those who want to see the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. Machiavelli saw something most people spend their whole lives avoiding. Power does not operate on morality. It operates on perception, on fear, on control. He said something very simple, yet powerful enough to shatter the illusions of an entire generation. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few really know what you are. That line wasn't written just for kings or rulers. It was written for anyone seeking influence in the modern world, from CEOs, politicians, leaders, to you. And if you want to survive in this world, you must understand Machiavelli's first lesson. Truth matters less than perception. Competence matters less than appearance. Reality matters less than the illusion you create for others. You can be the most skilled, the most ethical, the purest heart in the room. But if you don't know how to shape the right impression, if you don't understand how others see you, you will be left behind. While a liar stands on the podium of success, in his book, The Prince, Machiavelli never teaches you how to be a good person. He teaches you how not to be torn apart by wolves. Because this world does not reward honesty. It rewards those who know how to control the emotions of the crowd. You might ask, but what about justice? What about truth? Machiavelli's answer would likely be this: justice is a concept. Truth can be controlled, and power does not wait for dreamers. He advised rulers to learn how not to be good. That doesn't mean becoming evil. It means understanding this. Sometimes, morality stands in the way of your survival, and those who dare to cross the moral boundary have more options in the game of power. But those still waiting for everything to be right before they act will be crushed before they even speak. Sounds terrifying. Good, Because it's true. Machiavelli didn't invent this. He just described it without mercy. And what's even more terrifying is this: that mindset, 5 centuries later, is still disturbingly accurate. Look around you. Do you see people who seem moral, who seem intelligent, who seem trustworthy being praised every day? While behind the scenes, there's an empty, chilling void. That's not an accident. That's the Machiavellian effect in motion. If you feel like you've just been yanked out of a dream, if these words feel like a slap of clarity to the face, then hit that subscribe button right now. Because here, we don't put lipstick on the truth. We peel it back, layer by layer, mask by mask, lie by lie. And if something inside you feels like it's just been touched, leave a comment below. I want to know, have you ever chosen morality and paid the price? Have you ever lost because you believe too much in ideals? Or are you standing at the edge between reason and survival instinct? Share your thoughts. This is a place for minds who want to go deeper, not just get through the day. Thank you for staying with me until this very moment. You're not just a viewer. You're a part of this journey of awareness. And sometimes, the most courageous act of a modern soul is simply this: to face the truth. Why intelligent people rarely hold power. There's a silent paradox, one that is bitter, and it's happening everywhere in our society. The intelligent ones, those with depth, insight, and remarkable thinking capacity, they are often the ones left outside the power game. Meanwhile, the shallow, the simple-minded, even the clueless, somehow rise to positions where they command, control, and decide. Why is that first? Let's talk about what no one wants to admit. Intelligent people often limit themselves. They see too many sides to an issue. They don't fall into simplifications. They don't take shortcuts. And because of that, they hesitate. In a world where power belongs to those who act fast, hesitation, even when thoughtful, often leads to failure. Smart people ask themselves, am I sure? Are there any ethical consequences? Am I doing what's right? Or just compromising? The ones in power don't ask anything. They don't need to be right. They just need to win. Picture yourself walking into a crowded room. You're intelligent, informed, and able to see multiple perspectives. You start with, this issue is complex. We need to look at it from many angles. What happens? Silence. Not because people don't understand, but because they don't want to understand that deeply. Then someone else walks in, taps the table and says, I've got the answer. It's simple. Listen to me. And they applaud. In psychology, this is called the need for cognitive closure. When people feel anxious and insecure, they gravitate toward those who claim to have clear solutions, even if those solutions are false, even if the person knows nothing, as long as they speak with confidence. That's why, in times of crisis, the one who shouts gets heard more than the one who thinks. The intelligent ask questions. The powerful deliver slogans. We've seen this with Socrates. He was sentenced to death for daring to question, for forcing people to think. They didn't kill him because he was wrong. They killed him because he made them uncomfortable. And populist leaders, those who use slogans like weapons, are still celebrated, even when their words are empty. A 2017 study found that intelligence helps with leadership, but only up to a certain point. Beyond that, the smarter you are, the harder it is to lead. Why? Because highly intelligent people speak a language that's foreign to the masses. They analyze. They see contradictions. They say things people don't want to hear. And the crowd, they just want one simple line. Everything will be fine, even if it's a lie. Now, are you beginning to see the pattern? Intelligent people don't lose because they're lacking. They lose because they're too aware. And in this world, awareness is often a burden. So how do we stop intelligent people from being shut out of the game? That's why I made this video. To awaken, to decode, to give the choice back to those who have stayed silent. If you see yourself in this story, if you're someone who sees clearly but is never heard, hit that subscribe button right now. Because here, we don't fear complexity. We don't run from depth. We don't reject truth just because it's uncomfortable. And if this video touched something inside you, leave a comment. Have you ever felt isolated because you went too deep? Have you ever been dismissed for asking too many questions? Have you ever watched someone incompetent rise to power? Tell your story. I want to hear you. And I believe there are many others out there waiting for a voice like theirs. Finally, thank you, not just for watching, but for listening, with both heart and mind. Because real power doesn't come from being the loudest. It comes from the one who can see the darkness and still chooses to live with light. The confident fool effect. Dunning-kruger. Now, let's go deeper. Because if the previous section explained why intelligent people are often excluded from power, this one will show you why the ignorant often end up on top. This phenomenon has a name, Dunning-Kruger, one of the darkest paradoxes ever recorded in psychology. In 1999, two American researchers, David Dunning and Justin Kruger, revealed a shocking truth. The less people know, the more likely they are to believe they're highly competent. Meanwhile, those who are truly capable often question themselves. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Have you ever seen an incompetent person speak as if they held the absolute truth? Heard empty words praised as powerful declarations? That's Dunning-Kruger. Confidence without foundation, a delusion of skill, a blind faith in oneself. Simply because they're not smart enough to know they're wrong. Shakespeare said it centuries ago. The fool doth think he is wise, but the wise man knows himself to be a fool. Machiavelli never named this effect, but he described it through a lifetime of observation. The overconfident always look more like leaders, at least to the crowd. And in a chaotic world like today, false confidence creates real power. Those who think deeply, those who analyze carefully, often say things like, "I need more information. We should check this again. I'm not sure I know enough to conclude." But the delusional one says, "I know this. Trust me. Only I am right." And the crowd, they prefer simplicity. They crave clear answers. They follow the one who sounds certain, not the one who truly thinks. That's why, if you're someone who often asks, "Am I really good enough?" chances are you're already better than many of the loud ones out there. If what I'm saying has made you reflect on yourself, on what you've seen at work, in politics, or in society, then hit that subscribe button, because here, we don't glorify the fake, we expose it. And if you've ever been overpowered by a loud fool, ever been pushed aside for speaking the truth, leave a comment. I believe there are others out there living the same story, and they need to know they're not alone. The dunning-kruger effect is more dangerous than you think. It doesn't just allow the unqualified to rise. It convinces them they deserve to be there. And worse, it convinces the crowd that they are actually competent. Look around the world. How many failed CEOs still walk with their heads high? How many politicians win elections after speaking complete nonsense? How many leaders make disastrous decisions, yet get praised simply because they never show doubt? Machiavelli once wrote, "The appearance of certainty is more persuasive than proven truth." And now you see? That's the price we pay for living in an era where image matters more than essence. Thank you for staying with me this far. If you're still listening, it means you want to understand, not just believe. And I know people like you are becoming rare, so please hit subscribe so I can continue bringing you what no one teaches and the truths no one dares to speak. And finally, thank you, not just for watching, but for listening with both your mind and your heart. The system that breeds incompetent leaders. One incompetent man rising to power is a problem, but when he manages to stay in power, it's no longer a personal issue, it's systemic, a system rotten from within, where competence is no longer a criterion for promotion, but a threat. Machiavelli saw this centuries ago. He wrote, "The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him." It sounds simple, but it's a golden key to decode a corrupt power structure. When a mediocre man climbs into leadership, his first move isn't reform. It's to surround himself with people even worse. Why? Because the competent will see the mistakes he's hiding. The ethical will question the decisions he avoids. The strong will threaten his position. And so, a network is built, not to serve the organization, but to protect the panicked ego of the man on top. Have you ever worked in a place like that where if you outperform your superior, you're seen as disrespectful, where asking questions gets you labeled a troublemaker, where honesty is treated as a threat? That's not a coincidence. It's the domino effect of intentional incompetence. The one at the top chooses someone weaker, then that person chooses someone even weaker. And before you know it, the whole system is run by people who are better at saying yes than they are at thinking. Psychologists call this phenomenon competence threat. It means insecure leaders feel threatened by anyone who outshines them, so they'll do whatever it takes to neutralize, isolate, or eliminate the competent, just to feel safe. And the consequence? Not just stagnation, not just organizational decline, but a toxic culture where mediocrity becomes the standard, and talent must hide to survive. If you're living in a place like that, or you walked away to protect your dignity, leave a comment below. You are not alone. Many people have failed because they were too skilled, too honest, too brave. They didn't fail because they weren't good enough. They failed because the system was built to reject people like them. If you see yourself in this story, hit that subscribe button. Because here, we don't sugarcoat reality to comfort each other. We speak the truth, even when it stings, because only when you understand the darkness can you learn to light your own path. And thank you for not giving up halfway through, because I know many people stopped this video at minute 3. It was too real. It hit too hard. But you're still here. You chose to go deep. You chose to seek clarity instead of clinging to comfort. and that makes you different. Why society favors the confident over the competent. Here's a troubling question, but one worth pondering. Why is it that the truly skilled are often doubted, while those who speak with absolute certainty are the ones people follow? Why does a real expert get questioned just because they say, "I can't fully confirm that yet," while someone who knows nothing steps up and boldly declares, "I've got the solution," and gets a round of applause? The answer lies deep within the human mind. It's not about logic. It's about fear. People don't always seek truth. They seek comfort and certainty. Even when false, feels safer than honest ambiguity. That's why the appearance of knowing often defeats actual knowledge. Psychologists call this a cognitive bias. We tend to associate confidence with competence. Someone who speaks loudly, stares straight ahead, and never hesitates, even when completely wrong, is still more likely to be believed than someone who is right but humble. This is a glitch in the human mind, a kind of bug in our brain software, and tragically, in today's world, that bug has become a weapon for the unqualified. Have you ever seen someone who speaks in flowery words? They don't tell the truth, but they talk beautifully. They don't solve problems, but speak as if they alone hold the key. Have you ever sat there and watched them take the stage while you, or someone more deserving, got left behind if that ever happened to you? You're not crazy. You're just living in a society addicted to performance. Machiavelli warned us centuries ago. Men judge by the eye rather than by the hand, for everyone can see, but few can truly touch the truth. That's why many real scientists stay invisible to the public, while self-proclaimed experts are everywhere, because those who truly know are aware of what they don't know, while those who know nothing have no fear of being wrong. So what can we do? First, be aware, because if you don't know the game that's being played, you'll end up being played. If you don't understand how society is manipulated by emotion, you'll keep getting disappointed as competence keeps getting shoved off the stage. If what I'm saying resonates with your real-life experience, hit that subscribe button, not just to watch more videos, but to walk with me as we unmask the system, from politics to society to the way you see yourself. And if you've ever witnessed someone being overlooked just because they didn't know how to perform, leave a comment below. I want to hear your story, because I believe it's not just your story. Thank you for staying with me this far, because most people stop at the surface. Only a few are willing to dive beneath the noise. If you're still here, you're one of the few, and this society needs more minds like yours. Why incompetent leaders always choose weaker people. Have you ever wondered why in so many organizations, the competent ones leave while the incompetent rise? Why? In a team, those who stay quiet and get things done are overlooked, while those who do nothing but flatter the boss keep their place. This is no accident. It's the strategy of incompetence. When an unqualified person rises to power, they understand one thing very clearly. If they choose the wrong person, they'll be overthrown. And the wrong person is anyone more capable than they are. So instead of picking the most competent, they choose the ones who make them feel safe. That means the loyal, the obedient, the ones who know when to stay silent. Why? because the competent will spot the flaws. They'll ask the hard questions, and worst of all, they might be able to replace them. And so begins a chain of replicated incompetence. A weak leader chooses an even weaker subordinate. That subordinate chooses someone even less competent. And over time, an entire system is built on stagnation. Machiavelli saw this as early as the 16th century. He wasn't surprised. He pointed it out directly. A weak leader chooses someone weaker so that he himself appears strong. The scary part, this isn't just the strategy of individuals. It becomes a hidden culture, a self-sustaining, self-replicating mechanism, like a virus, silent but effective. Have you ever worked at a company where the intelligent were isolated? Have you seen a team that existed only to protect the boss's chair? You're not imagining things. You're witnessing the operation of a decaying system. And if you were ever pushed out, not because you did something wrong, but because you did everything right, know this: that rejection is proof you were on the right path. If what you're hearing right now has made you pause and sit in silence, hit that subscribe button, because here, we don't teach each other how to please the crowd. We dig to the root of the problem together. And if you've ever seen truly competent people pushed out just because they made their boss uncomfortable, leave a comment. I want to hear your story, because the more people speak up, the more light we shine on a system operating in the dark. Thank you for making it this far. Not everyone has the patience to understand, but you chose to listen with depth. And sometimes, that alone is the most courageous act in a noisy world. Why we keep falling for people who oversimplify everything. Let's face one hard truth. When the world gets chaotic, we don't look for the one who tells the truth. We look for the one who makes it short. People don't chase accuracy. We chase comfort. We want things that are easy to understand, easy to absorb, easy to swallow. And because of that, we let those who oversimplify everything lead the way. They don't have the right answers, but they have fast ones. Wrong, but confident. Wrong, but eloquent. Wrong, but somehow satisfying to hear. They don't help us understand the issue. They help us avoid it. Have you ever seen someone online saying, "It's all very simple. This side is wrong. That side is right. Pick this side and you'll win"? Have you seen the crowd rush in to applaud, share, and praise? And meanwhile, the ones who speak with nuance, the ones who analyze every angle, the ones who explain both sides in depth, get ignored, not because they're wrong, but because they make people tired. Machiavelli once said, "The great majority of people are satisfied with appearances and are more influenced by what seems true than by what is actually true." We choose beliefs, not because they're correct, but because they make life feel easier. We choose leaders, not because they understand, but because they make us feel safe, even if that safety is fake. And do you know the cruel irony? When we most need intelligence is exactly when we're most vulnerable to manipulation, when the world is in chaos, when fake news spreads, when hearts are filled with fear. The masses don't seek truth. They seek emotional flotation devices. And the ones who oversimplify are the ones who hand them out. Do you see the tragedy now? The intelligent one says. This answer has many layers. Let's analyze it carefully. The shallow one says, "It's simple, just trust me." And the crowd chooses the second. We often believe those who oversimplify, not because they're right, but because they say what we want to hear. If what I'm saying is hitting something in you, a moment when you watched society celebrate a smooth-talking liar and turn their back on someone who spoke the hard truth, hit that subscribe button now, because here, we don't speak to be liked. We speak what's right, even if it hurts. And if you've ever lost faith in society, simply because you were too awake to be lulled back to sleep, leave a comment below, not to complain, but to know you're not alone. There are others, like you, still searching for truth, not just comfort in the dark. Thank you, not for watching, but for choosing to look deeper, further, and more honestly. This world has enough sweet talk. What it's missing are people willing to face the complex truth. Why morality makes smart people lose. This is a painful truth, but the more you look at the world, the clearer it becomes. Moral people often lose in games designed by the immoral. Intelligent people usually have ideals. They think long-term. They don't just look at results. They consider the cost. They ask questions like, is this action right? Will anyone be harmed? Are there long-term consequences? But those who seek power ask only one thing: will this help me win? Because of this difference, moral people are restrained by their own principles. They don't lie. They don't betray. They don't manipulate. And that makes them slower, gives them fewer chances, and makes them easier to take down. In any game, if you tie yourself to ethical limits while your opponent doesn't, you are at a disadvantage, not because you're weak, but because you're playing fair in a game with no rules. Machiavelli understood this, and he wrote something that shook the world. A prince must learn how not to be good, and know when to use it, or abandon it, not because he encouraged immorality, but because he realized that if you rely on morality alone, you'll be eliminated from power. And when the moral are removed, power falls into the hands of the unworthy. That's how evil becomes a system. Have you ever seen honest people removed from an organization? Have you witnessed truth-tellers punished while liars, flatterers, and schemers rise? If you have, leave a comment. I want you to tell your story, so others see this isn't happening to them alone. And if what I'm saying feels like the voice you've been waiting to hear, hit that subscribe button. Not so I get more views, but so you no longer feel alone in your awakening. Thank you for having the courage to hear what's hard to hear. Not everyone can do that, but people like you are the last hope for a world that still has a little conscience left. The solution: how to defeat systemic stupidity. After everything we've uncovered, from incompetent people rising to power to entire systems designed to reproduce incompetence, you may be asking, so what's the solution? Are we doomed to live in the darkness of the foolish forever? The answer is yes. There is a solution, but it's not simple, and it can't be fixed with slogans or motivational speeches. To defeat systemic stupidity, we don't just need personal resistance. We need to rebuild the environment. There are 4 key elements that determine whether a system thrives or decays. Let's go through them together, and I want you to reflect deeply. Are these present in your life, in your workplace, or completely absent? First, honest feedback. A system is only strong when it's willing to look at itself, when bad results are exposed, when failure has accountability, like a surgeon. If a patient dies, the truth can't be hidden. But in politics, media, or corporate spaces, where failure can be excused or blamed on someone else, stupidity survives. Second, checks and balances. When power is concentrated in one person's hands without oversight, abuse isn't just possible. It's inevitable. We need systems of supervision, critique, and balance, like the dual board structure in Germany, where executive decisions are constantly monitored by an independent council. Without oversight, every system becomes a banquet for well-dressed ignorance. Third, transparency. Ambiguity is the perfect breeding ground for incompetence. When nobody knows what's real or fake, right or wrong. When complexity becomes a fog to hide behind, the crowd believes the confident, not the knowledgeable. The solution: shine light into the shadows. Transparency is the enemy of deception. We need laws, systems, and frameworks that prevent the manipulation of truth. Fourth, a culture of critical and diverse thinking. The more intellectually diverse a system is, the harder it is to control. Have you noticed when everyone looks the same, thinks the same, nods the same? That's the death of thought. We need environments where disagreement isn't betrayal, where questions are welcomed, and where differences become fuel for intelligence. In short, if we want to defeat stupidity, we must attack the system that allows it to grow. We don't just need smart people. We need mechanisms that protect them. We don't just need moral people. We need environments where morality is not punished. And you can begin with yourself. Start with how you process information by saying, "I'm not sure yet, but I want to understand." By refusing to spread messages that oversimplify just to comfort others. Because every small action you take is one brick laid in the foundation of a world that refuses to bow to organized ignorance. If anything I've said today resonates with something deep in you, hit that subscribe button. I'm not offering comfort. I'm offering awareness. And if you have an example, a real story of a place poisoned by incompetence, leave a comment. This isn't just a space to listen. It's a space to speak up, to face reality together, and to rebuild from there. Thank you for staying until the end. You've just completed a journey of truth that not many are brave enough to take. And if you've made it this far, remember this: truth won't save you, but it will give you a choice. And this time, you won't walk alone. Understand the darkness to create light. We've just walked through a journey that was anything but easy. From the harsh truths about power, to the reality of organized incompetence, to how the masses are led by the illusion of confidence. We arrived at the realization that sometimes morality itself becomes a weakness in a world gone mad. We're not telling these truths to breed pessimism. We're not here to plant seeds of doubt. We speak them to understand. Because only when you truly understand the darkness can you begin to create real light. Machiavelli didn't write to glorify cruelty. He wrote to wake up those still dreaming, not to teach people how to become bad, but to warn that if good people don't understand the rules of the game, they will always lose. Awareness doesn't come from blind belief. It comes from facing the truth without flinching. And if you've made it this far, I believe you are one of the rare few willing to do exactly that. You don't have to be a world leader. You don't have to change the entire system. Just make sure you don't let ignorance lead you. Refuse to stay silent when you know something is wrong. Keep sharpening your intellect and your courage. That alone is a revolutionary act. Darkness doesn't disappear with a slogan. It can only be defeated by awareness passed from one person to another. From me to you. From you to someone else. And that is why I invite you to subscribe. Not just to hear me speak, but so we can keep this fire of awareness burning. If you have something to share, leave a comment below. This is a space for the awake, for those who no longer want to live under gold-plated lies. And finally, thank you, not just for watching, but for listening with both your mind and your soul. In a world that favors simplicity, that prioritizes emotion over truth, that applauds whoever speaks with conviction, you chose the opposite. And that is an act of light. Keep walking forward, no matter how dark it gets around you. As long as you stay lit from within, others will find you, and the light will spread. Don't fade, don't retreat, and never underestimate the power of one person who has truly understood the dark.